Yeah. Will the recordings be available to us at some point?
They will. They will. I don't know what the time frame has been or the turnaround time frame has typically been for the recordings to be posted.
Because we're just posting them there, we do everything else. Right?
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know that we told him, so I'll have to.
Yeah,
talk to
Roy is our post, is the one who posts, and
So I will. He may not know to do this.
to get the facility.
His
or
last
the
meeting was on
negotiations
the
posted.
fifth. That one?
No, it wasn't.
Well, maybe
March 18th.
March 18th.
Yeah, Tuesday, March 18th was our.
March 18th.
The last one.
We're gonna have the 22nd.
Yes, because that was my best friend's birthday. Today's my second best friend's birthday.
No, mine's not until June.
And it's not a joke either.
Okay, I will.
All right, so this is our second negotiations meeting. Jen is absent from the session, as we know, she's in Helena, Gara. But Sandy, myself, and Beverly are present. Representing BPS.
Dave Gardner.
Violet Sinclair. Bob.
Sorry.
And we were on, do we want to just pick up where we left off?
Sure.
Okay,
Sounds good.
so we were on page 9.
But we put a hold on insurance. So we're actually on page 10.
We did. We stopped right at salaries and benefits, and insurance was the next topic, and we did put a hold on it. Okay. Dana, when we met last time, you said you wanted to hold on insurance because you wanted to bring your insurance committee. Is that what you said?
Yes.
I don't know who's on your insurance committee. Can you tell
So
me?
that is. Hold on. Our insurance committee is Jason Andreas.
Brenda.
Me. No, Brenda Kramer. Parente, were you on to? I thought you were, have you checked on this?
Okay.
John Parente.
Whoops.
Violet Sinclair. I'm going off my checklist, so that's all of us.
Okay.
And then I also have June Matt, but she's pulling away from stuff, so I'll have to double check with her.
Okay.
Tell her she cannot do that stuff. She's committed to that.
Right?
Right. Did you have anything that you wanted to talk about in 9? On page 10?
We do, but we're putting ours on hold for now.
Okay. So we're headed to C?
Yes, C2.
Okay, C2. So this one, we just thought we would bring this one in alignment to the other requests for salary schedule. So 2 says to move horizontally from BA to MA, a teacher shall submit a plan of graduate work that meets with the prior approval of the superintendent of schools or designee, with the final approval resting in the board. And then 3, to move horizontally on the salary schedule. A teacher shall obtain prior approval of the superintendent of schools or designee for any additional graduate credits to be earned. All references to credits are semester credits. So we wanted to remove number 2. And
All we did was,
He said, okay.
and
Yeah.
then the horizontal change would just go through the superintendent. and be based on the salary schedule.
Okay, and then you wanna, is that the one with Connery?
Yeah, so we had a proposal for that. We brought it to you last time, but we made one update since then, so I have a new copy here.
Oh, just,
Specifically with the masters plus 10.
Also, I have a question about two. So is the reason why, and this is gonna be historical, which a lot of us don't have, and I can find out information on it. But the reason why the reason why we bring it to the board for final approval, is it because of a budget adjustment? Is that why?
I'm assuming so, because the board, is in the practice of, like all of the lane change requests that I've received. Our board is in the practice of seeing those in front of them for approval,
Okay,
even though that's really not technically the language of this agreement. That's how it comes to them every year.
gotcha.
And so they are under the understanding that they make those approvals of lane change, all lane changes.
So is this something that you started doing, or has this been going
No.
on for a while?
It's been going on for a while.
Okay, so it's practice.
Yeah, it's
All
been practice.
Okay,
So what if a board member says, would they ever say, no?
They,
good.
they
Right.
may.
Yeah, they do have the right. That's why I'm asking.
Under the way our negotiated agreement reads now, those lane changes are obtained by the approval of the superintendent, not necessarily the board. And so the MA to MA plus 10 does have to rest with the final approval of the superintendent. With BA to an MA, currently the agreement says the graduate plan has to be submitted to the superintendent of schools. So that is currently how it's resting, but the practice has been, and it was prior to me, that they've gone to the board. They've not been
Just for knowledge for them.
for approval for salary increase.
I don't know if I agree with you having the say on that. That's not my issue. My issue is with the school board. With final approval resting with the board.
Well, they want it scratched out, so
Okay,
you're agreeing with what they're saying, and we already said, okay,
I thought we had that other issue. That one, that's true.
this is different.
Oh, okay, never mind, sorry.
No, you're okay, you're okay. That's number 2. So we're okay with that?
To remove it.
Yes,
You're okay to remove number 2?
yes, I was just curious, and I wrote notes in my contract that you guys provided to us.
Well, for some of the
For budget.
historical data way back when they actually, when they went into a master, now it's so easy to get into your master's program, but at one time they did submit it to get an increase and go into the program before you actually
The
finished
whole
it.
process of it, now it's so
Yeah.
streamlined.
Yeah, exactly, and so I've no think,
Interesting.
I don't think I've ever seen in the last year's hair, they
Yeah.
gone to the board on any reason.
Yeah, there used to not be as many master's program options.
Right,
Sure.
especially online.
Especially online, but even just program options, it was typically for a long time, educational leadership.
Sure.
Might have been one of the only master's programs. And, and then curriculum instruction, and so that there, yeah, it is. There are lots more master's programs out there in the field of education. So,
Okay,
and access to them is far greater than it ever was before.
it is, it is, and it's nice, it's convenient.
It is.
So number 3, we're okay to change the language to move horizontally on the salary schedule. But at the very bottom of that little paragraph where it says additional graduate credits to be earned, we just want to put academic credits to be earned because we're getting rid of the MA plus 10.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you're getting rid of the MA language, we don't want to put graduate credits, because it's inclusive, correct? It's including everybody.
And that's still with grade.
So you just want to scratch out the word graduate.
Isn't that what you guys do when you go back to school? You're earning your credits to graduate, or you just have them to?
No, graduate credits are your master's program. And since we're getting rid of the MA plus 10 language, we want to
Oh,
get rid
in
of
that
that
same
graduate credit requirement. So now it's academic credit requirement, because you're
Oh,
including
because you're
BA and
Okay.
MAs.
Yeah, so we're not getting rid of that. In this paragraph, we were
Yeah,
getting
in
rid
this
of
paragraph.
the MA and MA plus, but it is on the salary schedule as MA and MA plus 10. So
Right.
we're not getting rid of that language in this agreement,
But you scratched it out on this.
just on this line. Because we're just talking about another lane change. Happening to be from the MA to MA plus 10.
But you're changing it to move horizontally on the salary schedule. A teacher shall obtain prior approval from you or designee for any additional academic credits to be earned.
Yeah,
If you leave just graduate credits in there, because this is now inclusive to our BA, they can only do graduate credits. Do you see what I'm saying?
mhm.
So we have to scratch that out if you want it to be inclusive with the BA portion of it.
Because they can move over to be
BA
Plus
10,
10,
BA plus 20 without graduate credits.
Mhm.
But they have to be academic credits.
Mhm.
And then masters are academic credits for masters. Does that make sense?
that's to me, but
Come
I don't have the
on.
academics. I don't have the academics. Oh, you actually, on your paper, you guys have college credits
Where?
on this
The
paper.
one that
Number 3?
they want to join.
Oh, yeah.
You actually have college, you don't even, I didn't know.
We went
that.
back and forth about whether to use college or academic.
Oops, my bad. Sorry.
That's okay.
College.
Yeah. Um,
So what about college credits instead of academic or graduate?
I'm just trying to think through my mind, the lane changes because we have a lot.
Here's the problem.
And so I'm just trying to think of.
So we did this
With all the
too during
scenarios
Wellness
that
Day.
I
We all
received.
met that morning and we kind of hashed it out ourselves. When we say the word graduate, if they already have a bachelor's and they're taking bachelor's plus 10, bachelor's plus 20, they're technically not going to graduate from anything. They're just taking additional college credits.
Mhm.
See what I mean?
Mhm.
So by the word graduate, you've changed the requirement of what that can be used for. And it's really going to eliminate a lot of people of actually getting college credits.
Yeah, so, I'm okay with that, but I guess I want to keep talking about it because I want to bring something else up. So many of our class 7 licensed individuals do not have a bachelor's degree. And they're not able to make those lane changes.
Right.
And we want them to be able to,
Okay,
um,
get credits.
and so by earning credits.
Okay,
You know, not necessarily CEUs or any, we want them to earn coursework
I agree.
from BCC. Um. The, language endorsement, I think our associates, their credits. And
Aren't those college credits though?
they are, and they are, and so I'm just, they are, so I'm
Keep
just.
talking, hash it out.
So I'm just thinking, you know, is that gonna mean, you know, 1 lane change, 2 lane change, as long as they keep taking credits, is that? I guess I want them to keep making lane changes.
Right.
I want them to progress through their career and feel.
I'm glad you brought them up because we talked about them on Friday.
Yeah.
And when those individuals who are involved in ceremony are attending ceremony or any kind of events, you cannot get credits for those. But those are seriously like, it's major academic instruction for those class sevens as far as language and culture goes. So we were trying to figure out how to give them.
Does BCC, because, you know, I've attended, Jen and I go to the education committee meeting, we're going to those class 7 meetings. I've been involved with the 2+2 program. When they're developing those classes, they're utilizing a lot of those components as part of their coursework.
But they don't require it for all of the.
They don't
courses.
require it for all, but I think they're trying to naturally embed some of that.
Right, and
into
here's
their
the thing
programs.
with our societies, there are different societies on the reservation, and there's a lot of people who go across to Canada and partake in those cultural experiences. There's some local here, there's Heart Butte, I mean, so BCC only requires certain ones. And I guess we can't pick and choose and tell our class sevens which ones they can and cannot go to. Does that make sense?
Right.
Because it's a society thing.
Right.
So I don't know, we can kind of get caught
Yeah,
in a little bit of a sticky web
yeah. So,
by saying DCC has the authority.
right. I mean, and those academic credits could come from anywhere.
Right.
Definitely. So,
And then, you know, I tried to find out at one point who all had class sevens, because I kind of know who's who in the zoo as far as the society world goes.
yeah,
I don't think anyone has any issues but there are people who do have issues with other cultures, or not
Yeah.
cultures, but societies.
Mhm.
So I don't know, that's really a sticky.
Yeah.
Is the class
How do we-
7 the only ones that fall into that
The
category?
class 7 are the only.
It really should have its own language. Let's like agree to come up with some language for them, because I want them to move over.
Yeah.
They have sat in that BA slot
Yeah.
for how many years, and they really deserve
Yeah.
something.
Could it sit on the bottom of our salary schedule? Like in one of
Absolutely.
those notes down there?
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
We'll come up with something, you guys come up with something,
okay,
and then we'll hash it out next time.
okay. So what word do we want to use there? College credits?
We can put college in there.
Okay.
And then I wanted to talk about all references to credits are semester credits. You guys are aware SKC is on quarter credits, correct?
No, I wasn't.
They have quarters. My daughter's going through that eye-opening experience in transferring semester credits to quarter credits. And she's mad right now.
Even if they're.
So if we put academic credits there instead of semester credits, all references to credits are academic credits or college credits. Because.
Or quarter credits converted to semester credits. Can we say that?
Sure. Quarter credits. Converted. To. semester. You guys okay with that?
Yep, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. And we're okay with the college credit?
I'm rethinking that. If we just say college credits, do we make it okay for somebody to get college credits in anything? I mean, isn't the whole purpose of this to drive them towards getting a master's in in education?
Well, you're talking masters again. You guys scratched out the word MA plus MA 10.
So aren't there like certain
It's for our BAs too.
specialist certificates and things that aren't master's degrees, but still like helpful in the world of education?
Yeah.
Is there a way that we
There are
could,
endorsements that
Yeah.
are not a master's degree. There are,
The letters training.
there's art endorsement, there's a PE endorsement, there's a reading endorsement, there's a letters training.
And they're all
there's-
college credits.
They're all
They're all
college
college
credits.
credits, and they're all, those would all be moves from like
Anything
BA
that
10 to
makes-
BA 20.
for a better teacher?
Right.
Is what I'm all for. What I'm not for is taking the extemporaneous credits here and there.
You're
just
saying
to
my
get-
yoga and my golf credits don't count? That's SEL, man.
But isn't that where superintendent's approval? I mean, if she's seeing that you're taking. all
I
of yoga-
I have not seen anything.
Yeah, and I don't think
that our
you're gonna
teachers
spend the
have.
money.
Don't open that can of worms.
Yeah,
They'll go straight towards it.
Whatever it's easy.
Yeah,
He's
I,
planning for all eventualities or possible eventualities.
yeah, I have not seen anything that
Okay,
indicates that's happening.
throwing it out there.
Not that it couldn't, but.
Sorry, I'm making a note. To myself, before I forget. All right, and then what do you guys think of the proposal that John just handed to you?
Can I look into this? And I'm sorry that I didn't look into it between last year and this year. But I guess I'd like to, between now and our next meeting, look into it a little bit more. Because I've actually had a conversation regarding a similar matter in the last couple of weeks relating to another group within our bargaining unit. And I just like some time to look at some different
Sure.
master's programs.
Can you explain what the thought
Yeah,
behind
that's what I was
this?
gonna- yeah, so
Do you want to take this?
the idea, and I'm sure you can read between the lines. The idea is that a master's program varies from 30 to 60 credits, a master's. So there's a lot of folks who got that 30 credit master's degree, got their diploma, went on and did 10 credits after that, and they're already in that MA 10 lane. Meanwhile, there's other folks who've done a 60 credit master's program, but are still stuck in that MA lane.
Yeah, and the two groups that I talked to are speech pathologists
Yeah.
and our school psychs who are on the upper
And our
end,
counselors.
Right.
that are on the upper end of that lane.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree.
And our
So-
nurses.
Yeah, so I do want to look at that.
Okay.
And we'll come back to
And
it.
it's pretty much our like extreme technical.
Yeah.
Individuals, because your basic teacher curriculum masters is the 30-ish.
Right.
Range, depending on what you went into.
Is that
Those-
the school you choose to go to if it's 30 or 60?
It's
The degree.
it's the specific
Oh,
program.
Yeah, so it's like you're talking another year, not 2 years. Of training.
Well, it's like going into medical and all the extra. Okay.
I need to get a couple different color highlighters. I got a color coding system.
That's all right.
I don't have them.
So were we okay with the college
Yes.
credits? Okay.
That's what she
It
said.
seemed like we were good with that. Move the bathroom really quick.
Make it quick.
Definitely not aligned in that one.
Is that over? You guys have any guys in this building?
One.
Jocko.
Oh my God, Jocko, he has his own bathroom. I wouldn't be invading it.
Wait,
Jocko,
what?
you're sharing it with me.
He's the only male in the building.
Oh, yes, that's true.
Oh, we've had to borrow it once in a while, way back when. We just stand outdoors. Cause that one was occupied and had to go, so it's like, we don't have anyone in here that's gonna go. Oh, actually, cause at that time there was no
Okay, thank you.
males.
Bye.
Oh. Okay.
Anything else on that page?
I think we're good. We're on hold with our language. We're gonna adjust graduate credits to college credits.
Mhm.
We're gonna add quarter credits converted to semester. And then we're scratching out the MA plus MA 10 and we're adding on the salary schedule.
Mhm.
Okay. We're good about it.
We're back on the other.
Then we'll come back to that.
Do we have a lot of the teachers that have the masters fall into that?
No teachers do.
I wouldn't know exactly.
It's
what
our
the-
counselors, our
Oh, that's,
nurses,
okay.
speech paths. It's those
Sites.
higher technical positions that do. But I don't know one master's curriculum instruction, pretty much predominantly, unless you've got your principalship, but some teachers do. But that's even beyond,
Right.
it's beyond the regular masters. That is actually a master's, isn't it? Do some teachers have just that?
Masters in educational leadership.
Yeah. Mhm. They don't have curriculum instruction? Huh,
Yeah, I can think of a couple that just have, well, I can think of a couple that will have by the end of the year, their ed leadership masters.
mhm.
And then I can think of two that are working towards it.
And those are 60 credits.
No, they're probably more closer to 42.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting, okay. Kudos to them.
All right. Page 11. So we do want to just remove this. It does need to align to Montana law. For 1 year only, just as we had talked before, an emergency license is a license. And as long as as a district, follow that cycle of non-renewal, because it's no longer a valid license of June 30th of any year, then we can monitor those staff members who are not making progress in a program of study to ensure that we're not retaining
Yeah.
the staff members who are not working towards full licensure.
So I have a question about this.
Okay.
We discussed it, but I have questions now. This doesn't remove the emergency hire staff from our contract, does it?
No, it does not.
They remain certified?
They remain certified staff.
Okay,
Mhm.
Yep, and they'll tenure and everything.
can we make sure we put the language that the intention is not to remove them from a certified contract? But just
Follow the law.
follow MCA. Yeah, follow MCA. There we go. Okay, we were okay with this.
And actually, if you look at the last line, it actually falls in line with any teacher who doesn't have a license. So if we have a teacher who doesn't have a valid license,
Which we have a few.
we can non-renew their license.
Right.
So, and they just can be terminated for not having it.
What are we doing to support those teachers?
Um, well, we start in October and, we started the 1st of October. Sending regular emails, if you need, support in submitting an application, please reach out. And so Bev and we sat down with many teachers, emergency license staff, but also, licensed staff. In fact, one that recently received one, we've been working on it for 4 years. And she and Brina, have been working on it for 4 years. So
Wow.
the support has been there.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that's good. I was even hired by BCC to do a praxis exam because I got a good praxis score when I took mine. And so D's always utilized me to be that praxis, but they show up one class and then they don't show up any other.
yeah,
And I'm sitting there on a Friday afternoon
yeah,
for a whole semester. It's like,
yeah. One of the things that's hard, with the praxis is, that I'm finding with the praxis, or at least the mindset about the praxis is, it's okay to fail. I mean, even if you have to take that praxis 5 times.
Right.
Take
Right.
it, experience it, see what it's like, and then go from there. And we have teachers not even initiating it because the fear of
Fear.
it.
Sure.
they have test anxiety.
Yeah,
But what a part of what I did was teach them how to take a test.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to the math portion, you can whiz right through that. Look at the two obviously wrong answers and then plug one of the other two into the problem. See if it solves it. If it doesn't, it's your obvious the other one. And you eliminate minutes that way. And then you can focus more of your time. The ELA was crazy though, because how they're teaching ELA, at least in my master's program, was the science of reading. And the praxis test does not cover that any right now.
Yeah,
It's years behind.
yeah,
It's on balanced literacy.
yeah,
And so she really like drilled into our heads the differences in the both.
yeah.
That when we took our master's praxis, we knew what to answer,
Yeah.
even though it was technically wrong.
Yeah, I took the sped one not too long ago, and what was really interesting about it is it was really geared towards like large urban school districts.
Okay.
That rural Montana operates in a lot of cooperatives and service providers that we contract with an OT or PT. We don't actually have them on site, or if we do, it might be just one day a week. It's not an employee that's here every day providing those services, and the types of questions that were asked were geared towards large districts that offered those services all the time. And so it was really kind of deceiving in that way. So, yeah, sometimes they're way too specific to our rural setting.
Mm.
All right, you're okay with removing 8?
We're okay with removing 8.
Anything else on that page?
I want to talk to you two about something. But I'll put a hold on that for now. We may come back to this.
Okay.
To D.
For B. That's just based on feedback that I got from staff member. 12.
This one, when we were reviewing it with, among us and Andrew, or not Andrew, Andy Peters. He asked us, is this true? Does your board approve sick and annual leave or sick and personal leave every day? And no, they don't. So, he said, have a discussion about this and get, some clarity and understanding around number 7. So,
If they do though, it's in your policy.
but they don't. So,
But they do, because I've had to ask for school-related leave multiple times from the school board.
School-related leave for out-of-state travel. That is the only time they approve leave. And they approve that's the policy. They approve out-of-state travel for every employee of the district, including myself.
Right.
And so that is the only leave that they are approving. And so, so they do not have the final authority for granting or rejecting other leave requests. So we need to provide some clarity on this number 7.
Seems like there should be somewhere in there, just like room for sort of an appeals process. If admin has said no, then the staff member should have a right
An
to
appeal for the board.
appeal.
Well, the appeal would go to the next person in
next
the
person
chain of
up.
command. It
Yeah.
wouldn't go to the board. But it would just go to the next person in chain of command.
Which would ultimately, I mean, the board
It
is,
could ultimately end up
Yeah.
at the board,
Yeah.
but it may not.
Yeah. that makes sense. So yeah, it sounds like we just need to clean up the language there.
Mhm.
So is this what you wanted to say? His underlines?
The Board of Trustees is the final authority for granting or rejecting leave requests in excess of 10 consecutive days.
And so I guess let's just kind of look at the whole thing as a whole. Leaves of absence, general permissions. Number 1, all employees on approved leave shall retain seniority rights. Number 2, the district shall notify in writing all personnel on approved leave of their right to participate in the district insurance plan at their own expense prior to the leave of absence. No increment on the salary schedule shall be lost unless the leave, excluding school-related leave, is for more than 93 days. Requests for leave must be in writing, online through the district's approved platform, and must be directed to the building administrator. At the expiration of a leave, if a teacher does not return or an extension has been granted, he or she may be relieved of employment from the preparing. So to add the lengths and or benefits contained in this leave section and create other forms of leave, all at the sole discretion of the board and without creating precedent.
If you say that they only approve or disapprove school-related leave, wouldn't you want to put that in there somewhere?
Well, there's a section for school-related somewhere,
Yeah, there is.
This is,
somewhere.
Yeah, it's the 13 page, or at the bottom of 13, there's a section on school related leave.
Because this section is really saying that I have cancer and I need to take.
Yeah, this is for an extended.
It's not, I was thinking of like sabbaticals, because I remember we had a teacher. And she can say, as long as she was paying the whole premium on her insurance, she kept her insurance. And then after her first, because by law, they get 12 weeks, so the board can't deny any of that.
Right.
So right there, there's an issue, but beyond that 12, because typically once you get into after the 12 weeks, you're not covered by FMLA. And typically you don't have the leave to cover it. So basically the board is saying, we'll hold your job for, otherwise you can easily be replaced after that 12 weeks, because that's what the law allows. And so that I'm thinking that's what this portion of it's saying, is the board saying, once you've used up all your resources, you're going into a leave without pay. You have to pay your own medical, and it's holding your job by getting this kind of leave. And I don't know what because I don't think it's general provisions. I'm thinking it's or an extended.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
And usually it's Typically, it's medical for yourself or your family. So maybe that's the definition. We have to change what general provisions.
Should you guys want to come up with some language and you'll think through it too?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that what Sandy is talking about is probably what the intent of this section is probably to secure someone's, potentially secure an employee's position, beyond those, beyond law, the FMLA leave and the board may truly consider that, you know.
And they have.
Yeah, granting extended leave. And so, yeah, we will.
I don't know if we want to say extended medical leave, but it's something in that situation because it may be like, look at all the fires in California and people's houses that burned down. You know, it could have been my family and I could be out there helping them get their lives back together.
Sure.
That
makes sense.
So I don't know.
Yeah. So, okay, yeah, we will.
Because they don't do the everyday, day to day. I think it's going beyond where where the district would still be paying stuff or keeping them going. And they're not physically working. Almost a 2 year.
Anything on page 13?
We don't have anything at this time.
Not this time. It's something we might come back to, but I think we're.
We do want to look at school-related leave section. We, we do have some staff, out for extended periods of school-related leave, regarding different things. Coaching is one of them. And, we want to set some provisions around that, but also some others. We are going into a literacy grant, and with those literacy grants also opens up a lot more travel. And although it's a great opportunity, it's also opportunities. Our teachers are out of the classroom for extended lengths of time, and our student attendance is also significantly low. I did present our staff attendance to the board the other night. It's significantly low. So we on the district side would like to do whatever we can to minimize the amount of school-related leave offered to staff.
How long is this literacy grant going to be?
It's 5 years. Yeah. And there's very little in comparison to previous grants towards travel. Yeah.
When I first started working here over 10 years ago, watched the same people go to these literacy conference every single year.
Right.
And they would come back, do a PD, we'd all sit through and watch how wonderful their trip was. But we never really learned anything from it. But the people who gleaned all the information were the ones who went every year.
Yeah.
So it'd be really nice to distribute that throughout our staff, to have them all have the opportunity to learn.
Yeah. And you're currently working in a building with a lot of staff that have completed the letters course or are completing the letters course. And it's probably cost us as much for those individuals to take that letters course as for any staff member to take the trip to New Orleans. And the information they gleaned from letters is so far greater than what any of those
Great.
trips. And some staff members took that trip multiple times, to New Orleans. So the new grant is focused more around learning opportunities like letters and other opportunities like that. So it should reduce some of that. But we do want to kind of take a careful look at
You guys
this.
don't have language for that yet?
I don't have language and I don't have a number that I off the top of my head because I need to look at what that number is for coaching, and I haven't looked into it yet. So,
You mean like
So-
athletic coaching?
yeah, athletic coaching.
Okay. Are you restricting their school-related leave?
I'm not restricting it, but what I don't want to happen is I know that we've had school employees take an entire day for a home event that's happening in the evening or after school. I don't think that we can do that. I think that's a disservice to our kids.
Is the idea to put like a cap on the amount of school-related leave one individual can take, or?
Yeah, yeah, I'm thinking that that's probably the direction we need to go.
Do you have a, bumper for that? Just like a,
Like what happens when they run out and there's.
right, and they gotta go to state, and they can't go.
I want to build in some bumpers, but I haven't, like I said, I haven't totally thought it through because I don't know what that number actually looks like across coaches. But I do want to prevent scenarios like that happening.
Sure,
So,
sure. Well, and maybe this could also prevent what Dana was talking about, just the same people using it all, and then
Right.
be more widely dispersed.
right. Yeah.
I know this is far-fetched and I'm not thrilled, but can a teacher already know, like at the beginning of school, what may be happening that they might want to attend in the year? You know, sort of like you have them do, or we have them do like field trips thing. I mean, is that out
That's
there?
something you can plan and prepare for, but sometimes you
But I
don't
don't
know
know
there's a
about-
conference and somebody
And so they
presents
don't
it
have
to
them
you.
in advance.
And for example, I'll use me. This last Atlanta trip that I went on, it was a bilingual conference. They contacted me, 2 weeks before I was supposed to go. I know I was a filler to present,
Oh,
and somebody else canceled. There's a lot of people who actually canceled because of when it happened and where it was located. And so I was asked to fill in. They didn't say that, but I mean, 2 weeks before a massive conference. So I was able to actually wing it. I was like, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. I'll get the approvals I need. If not, it's not meant to be. I wasn't invested in it, but it happened. So there's those things that you can't plan for. And then I know there's is it August? There's that literacy conference where is it gonna be this year? Is it still in Bozeman, Big Sky?
Yeah,
They changed it from September to August.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's a Helena one.
they
There's our local ones.
yeah.
It all depends on what the literacy grant will cover and where they're going, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, so, so this literacy grant, you have to have a OPI approval for out-of-state travel. I actually didn't submit any out-of-state travel for approval. Not that it can't be later, but I didn't, submit it in the initial proposal. I did just put it towards professional development, like letters training. In all of the different areas, early childhood and admin letters and teacher letters. So I put it towards that.
That's great.
It benefits our teachers in a couple different ways. They're all making lane changes and and they have more knowledge.
I have to say, I've been reading through it, but I haven't been doing the work, but now I gotta do the work because I want the lane change. So it's a definite incentive. So I'll get my butt in gear here soon.
So, yeah, so
But it's really, I love what I've learned from letters. I don't necessarily agree with all of it. But it's nice to read and have a grasp and the knowledge, and I've heard a lot of people using it, so
Mhm.
that's wonderful. Anything to help our kids.
Yeah. Anything else on page 14?
We're gonna come back to number 4, funeral leave. We'll put a hold on that one for now. Does anybody, let me ask you this, does anybody use sabbatical leave in the last 5 years? Okay.
I did have one, potential consideration last year. An employee asked, and we talked through it, and they thought through it, and, decided to go an alternate route.
I thought about it actually myself.
So,
Yeah, it's a cool option to have.
It is a cool option to have. I was just curious. I knew of one person, but I haven't heard of anybody else taking advantage of it. But when they were doing that, U of M speech path, 3-year training,
mhm.
I'm like, this only covers 1 year. I like my job security, forget it. But I thought, how fun to immerse yourself in a graduate program over at the college. Just take a year, you got your job security secured.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm getting too old to want to go get another degree. Like I'm done.
Right. Anything on 15? Over to 16, anything on 16?
16 starts on 17.
Um. Just on that one, it's that extended leave, I think that should probably get combined with the beginning, extended leave without pay, because when you have extended leave. Kind of gonna go into that, so I don't know if we'll sort of.
What number are you talking about?
C, C1, it's leave of absence without pay. I don't know why I just saw that.
This might be part of the organization piece
Sure.
that we've been talking about.
Yeah, that's what I just saw that and I'm going, that sort of sounds like what we were talking
Maybe that
about.
goes under A.
I'm thinking
We're actually,
to rewrite it to have it all fall into under there. Because it's basically, it's extended leave and it could be paid or not paid. It's usually, unless you have leave,
does it actually go under B on page 12?
no, I think, oh, yeah, I'm looking at the wrong one. No, I think it should go under
Well, leave,
A, the general provisions that we
Because that
talked
would be a
about.
leave without pay.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, this is extended. Which that's what we were talking about, that we're gonna review and figure out on A. Under general provisions, under leave of absence.
So move it to A or B.
yeah.
I think it should go to A.
I think that makes sense.
A9.
Yeah, or, I mean, just I'm reading it and seeing what other pieces we're gonna adjust in there, because that's the area where we're gonna look at to see what we can. Come up with the different.
Does it cover all leaves of absence?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Well, it,
B is leaves of absence with pay.
yeah,
C is
Yeah, that's why I think it's under A, but we're reading.
C is court, no, where's C? This is
That is
C.
C.
That's the only thing there's.
I don't know.
It just seems out of place where it's at.
Mhm.
It probably fits somewhere
Cause it's a
like
lone wolf.
with A and B,
Mhm.
so. We can ask about it. And Dana, you were talking about doing some reorganization.
Yeah, with the titles,
Yeah.
we've had some recommendations, so we've already taken care of that, but we just haven't printed it yet.
This might be a place where we need to reorganize that piece.
Okay. All right, 9, duty free time.
Yeah. So this one is a challenge, Dana. So this one was negotiated in last year. Um, prior to last year, we had the prep period that schools were able to pull their teacher teams. And I recognize, you have a group of union members, but I would like to take a survey of all teachers on this question, because we are getting a lot of feedback from all teachers that this takes away from their team time, that those grade level teams are no longer able to meet because they have teachers walking out saying they don't have to meet. They have, like, the high school finally was able to pull their departments. And now that they're not able to do that, then their ELA teams aren't able to meet, and math teams aren't able to meet.
They actually can still meet.
They can, but it's not the same when you have one or two team members meeting. And when you have, when you have coaches or principals planning a meeting, and then you have other teachers who are in opposition of it, who are voicing that and saying, I don't have to meet, and walking out. And they're not forcing anybody to meet.
Here's what
but
the
they're
issue, why we
saying
fought
we're
so
offering.
hard for it, and it's happening again in the same buildings, is they're so overloaded with meetings, they don't have time to prep. And when you're in elementary, K through whatever, I know specifically my background knowledge is that. High school, I've been hearing from middle school too, but I haven't heard anything from high school lately. There's just not enough time in that 45-minute block to get that stuff done. So then you have a half hour after school from, well, some of us do. In elementary, we do, I should say, because our kids are on the bus by 3:30. We go back to our classrooms, but some buildings are calling meetings. They're mandatory meetings.
That's the time that they have meetings
I
now,
know,
is
but
now they're after school.
We fought that last
And
year
we
because
have-
they were
and now
after
we have
school, they
IEP
were during.
meetings and ER meetings, and those are
Can I
required by
finish?
law.
Can I finish?
Yes.
They were during prep, they were after, I mean, we were just over meeting out. And so we had to fight for a chunk of time and it was just one 45-minute block that got taken away. And everybody blew their lid because, oh my gosh, they don't get that 45 minutes to meet. Some buildings, I just talked to the coaches and said, ask your staff, see if they'll meet. And some do. Some actually are still meeting. They're fine with that. It was all in the approach. If you approached your staff and said, hey, we'd still like to do this as a collaborative meeting, we still want to be on the same page. That's absolutely how Brandy and Andrea handled it. And their staff rose to the occasion and they still do it. Others approached and how dare you take away this time from, and it was very confrontational. Well, then it threw walls up with their staff. It's all in how your leader approaches or your coaches approach the staff.
I don't think the high school
Not necessarily.
instructional coaches approached it that way. They're not
See, I
confrontational.
don't know. I can't, I'm
In
not
their
speaking for the high school, because like I said, I don't know.
But what they were able to achieve last year in that time is no longer in place. That's gone. So that's unfortunate for our kids. The other side effect of that, the implication that's happened is because teacher teams no longer have that time, all the other meetings got pushed to after school. And so now we have no teachers showing up for required IEP meetings and ER meetings, which are required by law, that we have to have general ed teachers there. And they're just not showing up because they're tired of having other meetings after school. But that is a lawsuit to the district. When we have a lawsuit to the district, that's money away from kids.
I agree.
And so I feel like this would be a win-win if we could put it back in. This was one prep period per week. We have a lot of new staff in our district. I recognize it's not the three of you.
Right.
It's most likely not many of your union members. But they need collaborative planning time with their instructional coaches, with their team members to develop and hone their skill as a teacher. And that's what this time
Can we
allowed.
meet and confer?
Sure.
All right. Oh,
Is that what it was before we changed it? One
Yes.
day a week?
1:30.
And when-
the week, just one 45-minute call. Oh, I hear you.
Guys have to eat those tarts.
While you're gone. Okay.
All of them? Get busy, girls.
That's fits one. If it's once a week, then your principal, I assume the principal has a set or not the
Please remind me of that. She's trying to give me gummies. I was like, oh, thank you.
Not even close.
Yes, it's
Yes.
lucky.
No, not even the same. You're weird.
They get exciting.
Like, yeah, if you spit on them. Only when they're wet. They only smile when they're wet.
Okay, so
We're on.
after discussing this, we agreed we will do a survey of certified union members. But I need to ask you permission if I can send it out on our district email.
So, so this is, a contracted item, so it can go out to all. Yes, so so we had a clarification with Shelley a couple weeks ago. If it's something that's within the bargaining agreement, it, can be, input can be gathered from all certified staff, not just union members.
So it can be, but
It can
it
be.
doesn't have to be.
It can be, and so, this is something that can be, and so, yes. Because it is a bargaining item and within the bargaining agreement, and yes, you want me to read it for you?
Where are you pulling that from? Because in our contract, it says the federation.
So, she responded to a concern, so we had a
Could you
staff.
forward that to me, please?
I will screenshot it for you. The.
Because everywhere in the preamble, in the unit recognition, it says the federation is the exclusive representative of the members of the appropriate union, which consists of.
So
And then it
simply,
lists-
she said, simply stated, a non-member. The only thing they are legally entitled to is what is contained in the bargaining agreement.
Right,
So this is contained within the bargaining agreement. So they are legally entitled to.
they're entitled to the rights, not to vote on the
Not
rights.
to vote, not to vote, but
Is that
what
what
are,
a survey is?
what are you?
What are we talking about? Are we talking about just
We're talking
using
about
the
the-
email?
You're
to-
using your survey to vote?
Right,
Okay, so you're not using the survey to gather information
No.
about whether this was used full time. See, that's what I was alluding to would be
no, 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 no,
valuable.
no.
Is, I
No,
think
we're
it-
using it to vote.
Okay, I think it would be valuable to get that information from the staff. Was it valuable time? From all the staff? That's what I was asking of you, because we are getting feedback from staff that that was lost time. That was lost valuable time for them.
Prep was lost valuable time.
That they no longer have that time with their teams.
Okay,
It's just a tough one for us.
yeah,
And, and a lot of the, what Dana was saying is like, this really incentivizes administrators to build an environment where collaboration is encouraged and where staff members want to opt in to that collaborative environment. It's instead of forcing staff members into a collaborative environment, which like inherently makes it less collaborative.
And what I believe from the district standpoint is the union is creating an environment where teachers are forced to go to other meetings, and now they're not able to attend.
we're not holding the
required-
meetings.
But now they're not able to attend required meetings like IEPs and ERs,
Now,
because those are required.
that needs to be
meetings.
communicated with them that those are required meetings.
It is.
Don't put it on our onus
But they
that
are
they're not
choosing
going
to
because of
attend.
all these other meetings. We're not
They are
holding
choosing-
the meetings.
They're not choosing to attend any meetings, period. So.
Oh, they're meeting.
But that's,
out.
I mean, the union's not giving them permission to do that.
Right,
Yeah, they're just choosing not to attend meetings, period, because they want their time, and the union is sending the message that their time is their own,
The
for
prep
prep,
time.
so. But their prep time is still district time. It's their own time.
right,
but it is their own district time.
About the only time we get.
So
So do I have your permission to send out via district email this survey?
what is your survey going to ask?
We don't know yet. We haven't come up with the wording yet, because we're just discussing this right now.
Okay, bring back to me what your survey is going to ask and then I'll consider it.
We'll just send it out via our method then. Personal email. Okay. All right, so this is on hold.
And we actually don't have anything on B, so. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, and so, Dana, you and I have met a few times just about things. And you and I technically can't change anything, regarding this agreement, and this paragraph actually alludes that you and I can. And so, it really should be removed. And the Labor Management Committee is actually referenced in another article, which is what you and I are actually doing when you and I meet.
but I'm not the Federation. I'm just a representative of the Federation. So you want to get rid of this? Why?
Because, I mean, any agreement that we go into actually has to be approved by the Board of Trustees and.
Right. And those are all of our MOUs. I get that.
Yes, yes, and so it really goes through this process, through the process of that Labor Management Committee.
Who's the Labor Management Committee?
It's outlined in Article 17.
This stuff.
Got the page 22. 23.
Mhm.
Oh, maybe we don't have a relations committee.
We don't have one.
So that's what it should be.
Some more tidying up. I'm just gonna ask the question.
Yeah.
You guys, this is new and I want to make sure I understand. So this is saying instead of you and Dana meeting, you and the committee meet.
But that's not what actually happens.
Right, and that's why I just want to make sure I was reading it correctly of what's being asked. Because it says,
Problem is
Four
getting people to volunteer for another committee. I'm just happy I have a good insurance committee now. Cause we have a list of committees for people to sign up for. Nobody will.
Yeah.
So it always, I can't even get my.
So
leadership
you're
to do their
asking to
jobs.
take this whole thing out because it's already in 17?
Well, technically, like Dana and I do meet and talk about certain things, she'll ask me, how are things going? And I'll ask her the same thing. But she and I can't negotiate terms of this agreement.
Right.
And so when
We don't.
we don't. And so when we need to put an MOU in place, we need to talk about the terms of that MOU
Right,
with a group of
people,
the,
yeah.
the union and with a committee of the district.
Okay.
And so, and that's what is outlined in this Labor Management Relations Committee.
So you want to remove this?
Yeah, so we
That's my
took,
question.
because we can't technically change the terms of this collective bargaining agreement through a meet and confer process.
And so this change doesn't have any implications on Article 17, that's what that's saying?
That's what that's saying. Article 17 says that.
Actually, it doesn't even, I don't understand how you're interpreting this as you and I. It talks about,
The board and the federation hereby agree to establish procedures wherein representatives of two parties shall meet and confer toward the resolution of matters with respect to matters affecting working conditions. Upon agreement by both parties, the conclusion shall be put in writing and signed by representatives of the board and the federation. I cannot sign as a representative of the board. The board has to sign as the board. I cannot put into an agreement for the board.
but isn't that
has
why
to
you
go
bring
to the
forth
board.
the MOU to present
It
to
has to
them?
go to the board.
Right,
But you and I cannot meet with you and sign that as a representative of the board. But what this paragraph is saying is that that a representative of the board can. I cannot. Or no
so
one
then all
else.
of our MOUs are null and void,
No, because
No,
I don't
because
sign them.
They've gone to the
They go
board.
to the board for approval.
but I've signed them.
Right. Right, because you are a representative of the federation. Yes,
Because you were elected, right?
yeah. So that, but that really goes through more of a process like labor management.
Okay, we're gonna hold on this one.
Okay. We can have anything on 18. Do you have anything on 18?
Let's see. Have anything 18 at this time. Question about personnel. I just have a question. Are principals allowed to keep personal files on their staff?
They're working files. or-
Yeah, they're considered working files on their staff.
Are those eventually put into,
No, they,
If they do a discipline, then yeah, it ends up in their file over here.
only the notice of discipline goes in the file.
The Weingarten.
The Weingarten notices go in the file. So when an employee, so I'm a principal in a building, I'm doing the annual evaluation process. I've taken notes, during the evaluation, I develop a working file. That employee might be in my building for 5 years. And I go to another building. I shred that working file. It's my working file. That employee transfers from my building. They're no longer an employee in my building because they've requested a transfer. I shred that working file. It does not, because it is my working file.
right?
So it does not, it is the individual supervisor's working file for the time period that they are under the supervision of that supervisor.
All right, and I'm asking.
And any documents that are in that working file outside of staff discipline
Mhm,
do not go to the HR file.
okay. And I only ask because when I go to represent people, I see these really thick files that principals are pulling out. And do the staff have access to those files?
I would imagine so, because in any staff evaluation process, I mean, I can't speak for every principal, but in every process that I've had, I pull that out. And during the evaluation process, but my teachers they look at my notes that I write. They ask
I've had
about them.
principals share their notes with me, that's fine, I
Yeah.
don't mind that, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering why some students or teachers have really thick files and some don't.
yeah, and most likely it's because they've been in that building for a long time.
Yeah. Which means with building administrators changing, they're not shredding those past files. It's
So
passing on to the next principal.
we actually, I mean, are you thinking, I mean, we
I'm thinking
Haven't-
middle school in
We
particular.
haven't had a lot of movement really. Because, well, I mean, the principals there have been in that building. She's been in that building for a while. So, yeah, they should be shredded, but it's not the responsibility of the next principal coming in to shred someone else's file either. So
Okay.
it is the responsibility of that supervisor who's keeping them to shred them.
I haven't heard anything come up using past stuff against them, but
Yeah.
just made me curious, like what? For
Yeah.
someone who's a new principal and suddenly overstaffed, have such thick files on people,
Yeah,
surprised me, I guess.
so that's typically the practice.
Okay. And I was just curious. So we need our 19, number 5, A through G. We are currently discussing this with our
Okay,
MFPE people in Great Falls.
okay, and I guess let me give you the history that Jen and I really tried to get to the bottom of this. We meet pretty regularly with Mary Johnson. So we asked her about this. Okay, give us the history on this. She said, I never kept one.
She did though, because Mary Jo would see it.
Yeah, she said, no. She said, I never kept one. She said, we talked about it. She said, we talked about past practice all the time. She said that I never kept a past practice file. And then, we called John Rouse. And he said, I never kept a past practice file. Now, what I know of Karina, she was trying to create one.
She created an electronic one.
She did not create an electronic one.
If she
So-
did, she didn't leave it.
In the transition, she didn't create an electronic one. In the transition between employees, admin assistants in the HR department, she had admin assistants start pulling files, HR files, making copies, redacting information to create one.
Mhm.
And then we went through several HR assistants in that,
Process.
in process, and it was apparently left from one to the other. We checked in with all three of them. Even though one of them is no longer an employee with the district, we did follow up with her. And she said, I remember seeing a stack of papers, redacted information, but I was never told what to do with it. It was just a stack of information. So,
So on July 5th in 2022, I got an email from Karina that said, we have our past practice file completed when you want to look at it.
so she never left it for me.
All right.
So I have access to her Google Drive. There's nothing on it. She never left me with a hard drive of anything. her desktop, that everything that was on her desktop, she took with her. The only thing I have access is to her Google Drive.
Okay.
Oh.
I want to ask another question. Is this just so that if you're being disciplined for one thing, you're being treated the same as that? Is that what that?
In past practice, like, for example, the whole point of the why we asked for change language in the prep is because they actually fought it all the way up to the board. And the board approved teachers would get all of their preps because they deserved it. So that was a past practice file that I had known about.
Oh, it's not just this one, it's just everything. Okay.
Right. So when it comes to this contract agreement and people going through the weeds over the years, we go back to that to see what the district decided or the board members decided. And that controls how this contract's written. So it's kind of important, actually. It's really important to know what those past practices are.
Yeah, because I think last year when we were negotiating, this is the first time I have ever heard of it, and I was here almost 14 years before.
And Mary Jo has looked at the past practice files. So for them to say they never had one,
Yeah, Mary was really clear. She said, I never kept one.
it used to be in a filing cabinet, Mary Jo said. And there were actual files in the superintendent's room. Because she could look at them twice a year, so she told me, be careful when you look, because you only get to see twice a year, so make sure you build up whatever you have, like a list, and then go in and look for the past practice. She walked me through it. Interesting. She suspected Rouse shredded it. But that was during her tenureship, and then it went to, who was after Mary Jo? Who was the art teacher at the high school?
Squee.
Went to Squee,
Oh,
right?
Squee Garterfield.
Uh-huh.
Was it
And then
teacher?
after Squee, it
Yeah,
went
he
to
was our
Joanne
teacher.
Grandstaff.
retired.
Joanne asked to look at it, but I think that was the beginning of Karina, and they start butting heads. I remember that.
Joanne was the president?
And then when
COVID.
she left,
During
Dawn,
COVID.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dawn McGee Cabell.
Well, census was it census?
Oh, yeah, he was
No, not-
before, Zentz was
He was
before
Before
Joanne.
Joanne.
He was
He was
the year
before
that I
COVID.
came. Yeah, maybe just like for 1 year. but-
I think, and yeah, and then he
Yeah, he was
left.
only here for
Yeah.
1 year.
He got his PhD on the salary scale. He was the only one that qualified for that. He negotiated that and then he was done. I'm just kidding.
Right. So, yeah, so I don't have any record of it.
Okay,
That's practice. Yeah.
But how do you go back and if Karina went back and collected that, how do you go back and then?
you
Dana,
look
can
at you look at the board minutes and the notes, don't you?
I don't know, so I'm wondering how you would.
You would have to go
recreate it
back and look at any
Any-
decision the board made
regarding the.
regarding the contract
Well,
or staff.
that could be.
Yeah,
So, but apparently it must have been negotiated out there at some point. Because the language was changed in the last agreement. Because,
we didn't change the past practice file.
no, not the past practice, but the prep period. The prep time.
So
Sure.
that first language said collaborative meetings. And here's where, when we fought and fight for last year, it became non-collaborative. And I kept stressing that The principals and the coaches are coming in with an agenda for these meetings. They're not collaborations. They're meetings for the admin to tell us what to do. And that's why I was pushing back, because it's not a I know what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. If that's the way it was always held in every building, but it wasn't, it became not a union, it became admin meetings, what it was. And so that we fought for that prep to be truly for the teachers. And that way, like at not BES, Bullshoe Elementary, there's a true collaboration that actually happens. They've naturally done it. So it's the onus is really becoming on the leadership to create that and develop that with their staff if they're capable. If they're not, that's something you need to address. I don't want to be the police of that, because I don't want to tell principals how they should be instructing their staff and talking to their staff. But there's quite a few who talk down, you need to do this. I mean, there's directives. Does that make sense? So there's no collaboration there, or there wasn't in a few of the buildings. And that's why we fought back against that, to make it a true collaboration. And a lot of people naturally did.
Yeah, there was a lot of natural collaboration, and I do understand what you're saying
Yeah.
in that statement. I do. Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it's like, how do we give the power back to our teachers to have, instead of sitting there listening to you guys need to do this and this and this and another for 45 minutes, because I sat in multiple meetings like that didn't even pertain to me. They would cover a math meeting, and I'm sitting in there as a reading interventionist, having to be at this meeting, listening to math, or listening to science, or listening to whatever. But it was all directed by admin. So there's no collaboration there. Where I could have, as a teacher, as a reading interventionist, sat with a couple of the teachers and talked about their kids and how we could work together, but that was never nurtured. So I guess that's where I push back against that meeting time and the push for it, because I know where the push is coming from. But we even had the language in there. It was called a collaborative meeting, and they never followed it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're
I
welcome.
get it. Let's work toward it.
Yeah, try.
All right. Yeah, if we can come back to the past practice file.
Okay,
Dana, will you forward me that email from Curtis?
yes, I will.
Thank you.
And I forgot, I'll look to see if she said who was putting it together, because then maybe you could reach out to that person and find out where they stored it.
The next section 19, we'll start there, but that's your proposal one, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. We can start there for next meeting.
Page 19.
Yeah, evaluation and dismissal.
Do you want me to CC Jen?
Yes,
Anyone else?
no, that's probably good.
Got you.
Do you know how many responses you've gotten on the survey yet?
I do. I was just looking at
Did we
that.
reach a 2,000 mark? Or is it 200?
We're at 428.
Oh, that's great.
For just 2 days?
For 2
You
days.
just released it this weekend.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you just released it to the public, right?
Yeah.
No, this weekend.
It just went out yesterday morning. The link
went
just
out.
went live yesterday morning.
Didn't it go out Saturday?
No.
Yeah, it did. The Facebook link was
The
there.
Facebook, but the survey
didn't work?
wasn't available till yesterday morning.
Oh, got you.
Yeah.
I didn't know that because I was like, hey, I want to do this.
Yeah.
But it was on my phone and I can't scan the QR on my phone.
There was a link on there, way at the bottom.
On the
Little-
BPS page?
Mhm.
Oh,
On the Facebook, right down below.
so they did it before it was even live?
I don't know about that,
Yeah.
but today when I looked, there was a little tiny link at the bottom of the page. I don't know about.
I know, Shawnee shared the link in that email.
Yeah, she did, and we updated it this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you guys want to snack on?